When someone starts tearing you down for no reason, there usually is a reason. I was married to my ex-wife for 21 years. 21 years of building a life together. 21 years of thinking I knew the person sleeping next to me. Turns out she was a stranger. We both worked at the same company, a mid-size insurance firm in Connecticut. I was in IT, managing the network and handling cybersecurity. She was in accounting, doing payroll and managing benefits. We met at that job about 23 years ago. We started dating, got married, and just kept working there together. A lot of people thought it was cute. Husband and wife at the same company. I'm 46 years old now. She's 44. For most of the marriage, things were fine. Not completely perfect, but we were doing okay. We had our routines. I worked my hours, and she worked hers. We'd come home, eat dinner, watch TV, have some adult time, and go to bed. Normal married life stuff. But about 2 years ago, things started to change. She got mean. And I don't mean we had arguments like normal couples. I mean she got cruel. She started criticizing everything I did. The way I loaded the dishwasher was wrong. The way I folded laundry was wrong. The way I breathed was wrong. Damn. Nothing I did was ever good enough. She would yell at me over the smallest things. I'm speaking from personal experience. When that happens, that means that person is doing that on purpose. They start causing problems in the relationship on purpose because they're doing something behind your back. If I forgot to pick up the milk, she would scream at me for 20 minutes. If I left a cup on the counter, she would act like I burned the house down. It was constant. Then came the silent treatment days where she wouldn't say a word to me. I would ask her what was wrong, and she would just stare at me like I was stupid. Like I should already know. But I didn't know. Yeah, I hate when people do that. They expect that because you've been with them for a long time, you're supposed to read their mind. Well, God didn't give us the ability to read somebody's mind. I had no idea what I was doing wrong. The worst part was how she would talk to me in front of other people. We would be at a family gathering, and she would make little comments. Oh, he can't do anything right. You should see how helpless he is at home, always laughing like it was a little joke. But it wasn't a joke. It was humiliating. I put up with it for a long time. Way too long. I kept thinking things would get better. She was stressed from work. She was going through something. Yeah, that's ridiculous. Your partner should never put you down in front of other people. That's not right. And it's none of their business. I thought she was going through something. I thought it would pass, but it never passed. It just got worse. Now, with all that, I never suspected cheating. Yeah. But what did I just say? If they're starting problems in the relationship on purpose, they have to be doing something shady, meaning cheating. I know that sounds crazy, but I really didn't suspect it. I just thought she was unhappy. Unhappy with me, unhappy with life, unhappy in general. I blamed myself for a lot of it. Maybe I wasn't being a good enough husband. Maybe I wasn't paying enough attention to her. Then one day, I was looking through the phone bill. We had a family plan, her phone and mine, and I noticed the bill was higher than usual. So I pulled up the detailed statement to see what was going on. That's when I saw it. One number kept appearing over and over. Calls, texts, more calls, sometimes late at night, sometimes early in the morning. I didn't recognize the number. It wasn't saved in her phone under any name I knew. Just this random number showing up constantly. I called it. I know, probably stupid, but I had to know. It went straight to voicemail. And the voicemail greeting was just a phone number, a robotic voice reading the digits. So I still didn't know who it was, but I knew something was going on. That number was being called and texted at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., times when I was asleep, and it was definitely her phone. We were on the same plan. I could see everything. I started paying closer attention after that. I noticed she was more protective of her phone than usual. She would move like Flash Gordon if I got near it. She took that phone everywhere. Little things that started adding up. But here's the thing. I wasn't the only one investigating. I found out later that someone else was already a step ahead of me. The affair partner's wife was doing her own investigation at the exact same time. See, her husband had stopped sleeping with her. They'd been married about 15 years, and their sex life had basically died. She thought maybe it was stress from work. Maybe he was tired. But something in her gut told her it was more than that. So she started digging. She checked his phone every chance she got. She looked at his credit card statements. She even borrowed her friend's car one day and followed him. That's when she saw it. Her husband meeting up with my wife at a hotel. Stupid. In the middle of a workday. She didn't confront them right there. No, she was smarter than that. She took pictures. She documented everything. Dates, times, and locations. She even took photos of the texts on his phone with her own phone when he left it unlocked. Ah. Yeah. You deserve to get caught. And then she did something that changed everything. She called our company's HR department. Now, you might be wondering why she called HR instead of just confronting them or calling me. Here's why. Both my wife and her husband worked at the same company I worked at. That's right. My wife was having an affair with a coworker, a married coworker, for a year and a half. Wow. The AP's wife knew that workplace affairs were against company policy, especially between people in different departments where there could be conflicts of interest. She had proof. She had the receipts, and she wanted them both to pay. So she called HR. She asked to speak with the HR manager directly, and she laid it all out. She told them about the affair. She sent them photos. She sent them photos of the texts. She even sent them credit card receipts from the hotel. Everything documented, everything time-stamped. HR launched an investigation that same day. I didn't know any of this was happening. I was at my desk doing my job, completely clueless. Then I got a call from my manager saying I needed to come to his office. When I walked in, HR was already there. They sat me down and told me there was a situation involving my wife. That's how they put it, a situation. They asked me if I knew anything about a relationship between my wife and another employee. I said, no, because I didn't. Ah, you kind of knew something was up with the phone numbers. Not yet, anyway. They showed me some of the evidence. Not all of it, but enough. Photos of my wife with this guy, texts between them, hotel receipts. I just sat there. I couldn't even speak. 21 years, and this is how I find out. They told me both my wife and the AP were being terminated. Effective immediately, violation of company policy, workplace misconduct. I asked if I could leave. They said yes. I walked out of that building and didn't look back. I went straight to our apartment. We were renting at the time, and the lease was up in about a month anyway. I grabbed my clothes, my laptop, some personal items, and I left. I found a week-to-week rental that same day. Just a small furnished place where I could clear my head. I wasn't abandoning her. I just couldn't be in that apartment when she came home. I couldn't look at her. She got home a few hours later. She was escorted out of the building by security. She had to turn in her badge, the whole thing. Humiliating. And when she walked into that empty apartment and saw my stuff was gone, she lost it. She called me 17 times that night. I didn't answer. She left voicemails crying, screaming, begging me to come home. I listened to about 30 seconds of one and deleted the rest. The next morning, I called a divorce attorney. Good move. Here's what my attorney told me about Connecticut law. Connecticut is technically a no-fault state, meaning you don't have to prove fault to get divorced. You can just say the marriage broke down, and that's enough. But, and this is the important part, fault can still be considered when it comes to dividing assets and awarding alimony. My attorney said I could file on the grounds of adultery and intolerable cruelty. I haven't heard that before in a marriage, per se. I've said this before in a couple of videos. Time will show you a lot about a person, especially in the tough times. Those are both recognized fault grounds in Connecticut under the general statutes. Adultery is obvious. She was sleeping with another man for a year and a half. I had proof from HR, from the AP's wife, from everywhere. The full timeline came out during the divorce discovery: 18 months of hotel receipts, 18 months of lies. Intolerable cruelty is when one spouse treats the other in a cruel way that makes it unreasonable to continue the marriage. That's a tough one, though. How was he able to prove that? That includes physical or mental cruelty, things like repeated screaming, repeated criticism, humiliation, and neglect. All those years of her putting me down, yelling at me over nothing, embarrassing me in front of family. That was intolerable cruelty. And I had witnesses who could testify to it. My attorney filed the papers. We listed both grounds, adultery and intolerable cruelty. When she got served, she tried to fight it. Her attorney argued that I had abandoned her, that I was the one who left the apartment, that I was the one who refused to communicate. But Connecticut law doesn't work that way. In Connecticut, moving out of the marital home is not considered abandonment. The courts understand that couples going through a divorce need space. My attorney shut that argument down immediately. Her attorney also tried to argue for alimony. She said my wife had been emotionally dependent on the marriage, and that she deserved support. But here's where the fault grounds mattered. The judge looked at the evidence, the affair, the termination, the years of cruelty and mistreatment, and the judge said, no. In Connecticut, when there's serious fault that helps cause the marriage to break down, the court can't compensate the guilty party. That meant more assets to me, less to her, and no alimony. The divorce took about a year to complete. Relatively quick, all things considered. We didn't own a house, so there was nothing to sell. We split our retirement accounts, but because of the fault findings, I got a larger share. She got nothing extra. No monthly payments, no support, no job, no husband, no safety net. Last I heard, she moved back in with her parents. Well, she messed around and found out. Now she's back at home. At 44 years old. The AP, his wife, divorced him too. She filed the same week my wife got fired. She had all the evidence, and she used every bit of it. He lost his job. He lost his marriage. His wife got the house in the divorce. The judge considered his fault when dividing their assets, and she got the better end of that deal. Two people thought they could sneak around for a year and a half. Well, they did. They thought nobody would find out. And then one phone call to HR brought it all crashing down. Here's what I learned from all of this. Please do not ignore red flags. If something feels off, it probably is. I ignored the signs for way too long. The cruelty, the distance, the phone behavior. It was all right there. In front of me. Second, document everything. The AP's wife is the one who really did it right. She didn't confront them in the moment. She gathered evidence, photos, texts, receipts. When she was ready to make her move, she had an airtight case. Connecticut is a no-fault state, but fault still matters when it comes to money. If your spouse cheated or treated you like garbage and you can prove it, that can affect how assets get divided. Talk to an attorney before you make any moves. Fourth, don't let anyone make you feel crazy. My wife spent years making me think I was the problem, that I was too sensitive, that I was overreacting. I wasn't. She was the problem. And men, I am speaking from personal experience. If you know you haven't done anything wrong, stop trying to fix it. If you're not the problem, stop trying to fix it. You are not a therapist. And the affair proved it. I'm doing better now. The first few weeks after the divorce were rough. I'm not going to lie. 21 years is a long time to be with someone. Even when that person treats you badly, there's still an adjustment period. You get used to certain routines. Coming home to someone, having dinner together. Even if it wasn't good, it was familiar. But as the weeks went on, I started to feel something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Men, remember that word. No more walking on eggshells. No more waiting for the next blow-up. No more wondering what I did wrong this time. I could eat what I wanted without being criticized. I could watch what I wanted without being mocked. I could just exist in my own space without someone making me feel like a burden. That's when I realized how bad it had really been. When you're in it, you normalize it. You think that's just how marriage is, but it's not. It shouldn't be like that. I still work at the same company. Some people know what happened, some don't. I keep my head down and do my job. I started going to therapy a few months ago, working through all the stuff from the marriage. I know a lot of trolls will be in the comments saying, "Oh, he's a weak man. He's going to therapy. He's still a human being." Certain things affect people differently. So just because someone needs therapy doesn't necessarily mean they're weak. The years of being put down, the betrayal, it's a process. But I'm making progress. I even started dating again recently, just getting back out there. Remembering what it feels like to be treated like a human being. As for my ex-wife, she tried to contact me once about 2 months after the divorce. She sent me this long email about how sorry she was, and how she wished we could talk. I didn't respond to her email. She made her choices. She chose to treat me like dirt for years. She chose to sleep with another man for 1.5 years. She chose to risk everything, and she lost. The AP's wife, I never met her in person, but I sent her a message after everything settled down, just thanking her for having the courage to make that call. If she hadn't contacted HR, I still might be in that marriage, still getting mistreated, still clueless. She wrote back and said she was glad she did it. She told me she parked across the street that day, waiting to see what would happen. Watching them both get escorted out by security was the best day of her life. I believe her. To everyone listening, thanks for hearing my story. If you're in a marriage where you're being mistreated, where something feels off, where you're constantly walking on eggshells, pay attention to that feeling. It's trying to tell you something. And if you find out your spouse has been unfaithful, know your options, gather your evidence, talk to an attorney, protect yourself, because at the end of the day, nobody is going to look out for you like you. People are going to ask, if we all worked at the same company, how did I not know she was cheating on me at the same company? Yeah, we would all like to know. Well, the building we were in had 6 floors. We were all on different floors. Each floor had its own break room. So while all this was going on, I had no idea. Well, I can see how that happens. But let me say one thing. Just because you've been married to someone for so long and you don't think they would betray you, think again. As I've said before, time has a funny way of showing who a person really is. Just saying. This is where the story ends. How was today's story? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments, and where you're watching from. Like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories.